worldwide food shortage. The world may be confronted with food crisis if authorities fail to manage the ongoing coronavirus in a proper manner. Government around the globe have put their population on lockdown, which is going to slow down productivities, slowing down international trade and food supply chains. What we forget as human nature is that globalization interconnected different continents with one another in multiple ways. We all depend on one another, making people and movement of goods possible. Now that we are in a lockdown, the slow movement of goods, it is going to bring with it panic in all sectors. As a result of panic, we will see people stocking up essential goods at home, thinking that sooner or later the supermarket will be empty. We have seen that happening already in Europe, although now the supermarkets are once again full. It tells you that human nature is very unpredictable indeed. We have witnessed panic buying by people who are scared of going into confinement, afraid of fragility of supply chain, which is going to be dictated by coronavirus, the killer. The supermarket shelves was empty in the first 2 weeks of confinement. But where I am today, the shelves are full again. The panic buying was a result of fear because people were caught by surprise as the coronavirus shows its muscles on our society. When people become uncertain about food availability, we all become scared. With no movement of goods, export to other countries on all, we expect shortages in global market. It tells you that we live in a world where no state can function in isolation. We all need one another. We all need one another in different ways. It is a warning to those who closes their borders to other people that in the new world economic order, you cannot function in isolation. We all need one another in order to maintain our well-being and that of our nations and that of other nations. Today, if you want to survive as a state, you have to make sure and ensure that trade flows freely if we want to avoid food shortages. We have seen in many states they are working hard to ensure and protect the health and the well-being of their people. Some are turning nationalist to win votes. But with coronavirus, they should understand that no state can stand alone. We should make sure that trade-related measures should not focus on disruptions of food supply chains. We all need it in order to prosper. We all need it. We all need to eat. We now have travel restrictions causing disruption in agricultural productions due to lack of labor force. It has become difficult to get food to the market in some state. In some state, we got back to where we was a long time ago, to a curfew. And if you try to bring your food to the market, the mad dogs will be waiting for you. The end result will be a proper beating that can send you to the hospital for treatment. In countries like Europe, they're protecting employees who are engaged in food production, processing and distribution, taking care of their health and that of others who keep the supply chain working. And up to now, they have maintained food supply chains. The supermarket where I am today is open. The shelves are full. That is due to proper management in time of crisis. And it tells you something that most of us have not seen. Management in a time of crisis is very, very important to our people. And they show you how democracy in itself should work in a democratic state. And I'm glad to be a part of just a wonderful experience. To be in a system that is taking care of its citizens and those residing within that system. This is the time you can extend a helping hand to your people. Let them know that they are not alone. Show them that you care. At a time of crisis like this, you begin to understand why we need one another. You begin to understand international cooperation, and it will become essential for our survival. We have to make sure that no one is left behind in Uganda. I saw the Prime Minister trying to roll out food distribution in Wakiso. I hope they will extend just project to cover the entire country, not selective basis, while in other part of the country, people are going through the same pain as those who are receiving help in other part of the state, like in Wakiso. We have to make sure that government lockdown does not create shortages of essential items that can lead to hunger and malnutrition among the people of Uganda. I understand that the government is going to distribute food to 1.5 million people in Wakiso, Kampala, and I hope in other districts. As I said, I don't believe that there are 1.5 million vulnerable urban poor affected by the virus lockdown. It is more than 1.5. Let's not close our eyes. On the vulnerable people who are affected. In other parts of Uganda. It is going to be a test of truth. How the government operate at this time of need. We are watching the relief packages of maize flour, 6 kilograms per head, beans, 3 kilograms per head, and salt. And I understand mothers will receive powder milk, 2 kilograms, and 2 kilograms of powder milk and 2 kilograms of sugar. But I really wonder whether that is going to be enough to maintain them, because in fact, we don't know how long the lockdown is going to take and what is going to come after the lockdown. Do we have a long-term program to supply food to those vulnerable Ugandans who might not have anything? Do we have a long-term plan to extend the possibilities of supplying food to those people who are not working because of the shutdown? And some of them probably may not even be receiving salaries. And it is time to make sure that the mad dogs, the local defense unit that are going around trying to enforce the present curfew, who are beating people up, are punished for their action. It gives us a bad name. And when you start asking yourself, then one could raise multiple questions to whether it is the local defense unit that is ruling the country while we have the president. We had been witness some officers who were talking on the social media, putting on the Uganda uniform and telling people that they are not like police. They are more dangerous than the police. And standing there, putting those videos in the social media with your uniform on, telling people that we are not the police. For us, when we find you stealing, we will kill you. Is that a message we should be sending our people? No. Is that how we teach our police and local defense units and the military that they are better than anybody in this country? That should not be allowed to go on. This officer who was talking freely on the social media should be disciplined or removed from his position, because he is a very dangerous person to the people of Uganda. And we begin to ask ourselves, who is really in charge? Of the military forces, of the local defense forces, of the police? Who is really the commander-in-chief? Because some of us are beginning to doubt the leadership of those military organs. And if the president of Uganda is not watching what is going on in the social media, is not watching what is going on in the borders of Uganda, like in the border with Sudan, where so many officers were arrested for insulting their own responsibilities, for torturing Ugandans in their own home, by mishandling people like 𝙏𝙝𝙖𝙤𝙧. It sounds like a bad joke. It sounds like a bad joke. Some people may think that what is happening today is better than nothing. But for those who understand that we need peace, we need to live together, we need to respect one another, and we have to control our military, our police, our local defense units. When you create so many organizations within organizations, it becomes difficult to control very people you're recruiting, the very people you want to represent you, the part of Uganda, to enforce law and order. It is now evident that the people who are supposed to enforce law and order in Uganda are the people who are violating those law and order. We have Member of Parliament, we have ministers who are representative of the people. If you keep on hearing day in, day out, that the people who are supposed to enforce law and order are the people who are committing the crime, and nobody does anything about it, then one could only say that controlling those forces has become a problem. It has become a problem. I hope, and I still believe, that the government, the Member of Parliament, the ministers can still wake up and say, let's take control. Let's stop this police brutality. Let's stop this local defense unit, which are being recruited day in, day out. And their job is only to terrorize people around Uganda, to beat up people on the streets. And reducing them to nothing in their own country. In their own country. Let's hope that the president of Uganda will come out and try to discipline these people within the police who are using brutality, within the local defense forces, and within the military themselves. When you hear that the police, the local defense forces, the military are trying to enforce the curfew in Uganda, and you hear that sometimes they use live ammunition to terrorize the people of Uganda, then you should do something about it, Mr. President. And let me come back to the role of the government in helping the vulnerable people. I hope what is happening now, that you started distributing food in one part of the country, let's extend a helping hand to everybody around the country, whether they are your supporters or they are not. because we are all Ugandans. And it's our duty to help those who need help. I hope if you people are listening, you open up your eyes, you try to help people who are vulnerable, based not on merit, who voted for me, who is my supporter, and you make sure that those foods, those items you are going to distribute reaches its destination. We all know on the way some of those help will disappear in thin air. If we don't show maturity in helping our people, our citizens, it will be laughable. It will be laughable to how we treat our citizens. And you ask yourself, Mr. President, ask yourself, the ministers, how long will 6 kilograms of rice and 2 kilograms of beans will last before these people falls back to nothing? It is surprising to hear that the Minister of Finance has allocated more money to security sectors while the ordinary people are getting 6 kilos of rice. Can somebody come out and tell us why the security sectors took the lion's share of money allocated for fighting coronavirus? I understand that local government is allocated 36 billion for disaster management support. The vulnerable people, 59 billion. I hope that money can manage to pass through a needle of corruption and reaches those in need. I hope those money allocated to the local government and vulnerable people is going to be accounted for properly, and we make sure that it does not end up in the hand of those who are very corrupt. Some of us are very skeptical, and believe me, I don't believe that the money will reach its destination in good shape. So, Mr. President, show us that you can control, that you can hold those who receive that money accountable for whatever happened with that help you are trying to give the people of Uganda. Thank you for listening.